tiny peak of Skull Island, Kong stares out at a horizon full of storms and questions. He's bigger now, heavier with responsibilities that aren't his by choice. He's the last of his kind up here. A reluctant king who often prefers punching trees to taking meetings. The film wastes no time showing us how that loneliness feels. Wide shots of an expanded Kong domain, his quiet routines interrupted by the distant thunder of something else moving. We cut to the human side of things, a worn team of scientists and military operatives piecing together clues about the shifting balance of the planet. Their work is practical, not flashy. Data streams, field probes, hurried briefings, but what they find is anything but ordinary. Strange seismic activity, odd energy signatures, and the sense that the Hollow Earth, that mysterious realm beneath the crust, is waking up in ways no one predicted. People argue, leaders worry, and the kind of bureaucratic politicking that always follows catastrophe makes for a nice bit of grounded tension. You get it. Humans are scrambling to make sense of a world where giant monsters are now the baseline problem. Back in the field, Kong encounters a young woman who can somehow understand him. She's quiet but fierce, carrying an innocence and an urgency that gives the human story a heart. Their bond isn't overly sentimental, it's earned in small gestures, a shared look, a hand on a much too large knee, but it's important because it gives Kong a reason to cross dangerous thresholds he otherwise would avoid. It's a classic human bridge device, and it works, largely because the film treats their connection as mutual respect rather than melodrama. Meanwhile, deep beneath the oceans and in the corridors of power, other forces are at work. The movie introduces a new antagonist that's part machine, part human hubris, a towering construct intended to be humanity's answer to the Titans. I won't go into lab geek specifics, but imagine decades of fear and grief boiled into metal and algorithms, the kind of weapon that seems sensible in a meeting, but monstrous in practice. The reveal of this mechanical juggernaut, gleaming, angular, and eerily purposeful, is the film's literal uh-oh moment. It forces characters on all sides to rethink alliances, because when technology meets an ancient ecosystem, it's almost never pretty. Of course, Godzilla is not thrilled by any of this. He's established as something like the planet's regulator, less a villain than more an ecological force with a temper. When the mechanical threat starts stirring things up, Godzilla shows up the way a hurricane shows up, slowly, inevitably, and with consequences. The film plays with our expectations by giving Godzilla more agency than in some previous iterations. He's reacting to changes in the Titan food chain, to threats against his dominance, and to the raw physical presence of a man-made rival. He doesn't speak, obviously, but his actions are narratively loud. Territorial charges, massive roars, and a few devastating displays of power that remind us why he's the king of radioactive monsters. Kong and Godzilla's early interactions are tense and territorial. Think old-school Titan diplomacy, which is to say fist-to-face and tail-to-chest. Kong's more emotional and territorial in a primate way. Godzilla is elemental and inscrutable. The film stages a couple of skirmishes that feel earned. Neither side wins outright, and both suffer. This creates a fragile balance that the humans can't hope to control. It also gives the movie room to grow from a simple big monster brawl into something with thematic bite. Stewardship versus domination, nature versus technology, and the complicated gray area where both survival and arrogance can live together. One of the film's strengths is its globe-trotting pacing. You get set pieces in ruined cityscapes, tense subterranean chases in winding hollow earth caverns, and a memorable sequence on an aircraft carrier where humans try to keep up with forces far beyond them. The cinematography gets playful. One moment you're in tight, sweaty corridors with characters whispering, the next you're watching a Titan-sized silhouette tower over a ruined skyline.
The contrast between intimate human moments and large-scale monster action is where the movie finds much of its emotional footing. You laugh, you squirm, you feel your jaw clench when a camera lingers on something big and dangerous about to happen. Plot-wise, the story arcs toward a classic pivot, the emergence of an even greater threat that forces Godzilla and Kong to stop being enemies and become, if not friends, then at least allies of convenience. There's a big reveal, hinted at with breadcrumbs earlier, that the mechanical titan is being powered by energy siphoned from natural sources, and that process is destabilizing the planet. The humans who built it believed they were securing the future. Instead, they've created an accelerating problem that could wipe out the careful balance between the titans and the world. It's a neat reminder that quick fixes rarely stay quick. This is where the Hollow Earth sequences pay off. We finally get more context for Kong's origins and an expanded, visually rich portrayal of the subterranean world. The filmmakers go for wonder more than exposition. Caverns pulsing with bioluminescence, vast root-like structures anchoring geothermal vents, and glimpses of other Titan life that feel organic and old. Kong is in his element here, and it's joyful to watch him move through this realm with a confidence he lacks on the surface. The Hollow Earth also serves as a metaphor for the film's central theme. There's more beneath the surface of our planet and ourselves than we often choose to see. Meanwhile, the mechanical threat evolves. Its creators keep patching it, trying to apply wartime logic to a situation that doesn't respond to such straightforward tactics. There's tension in those human rooms, the faces of commanders hardening, the moral lines being redrawn, and the occasional scientist looking less like a superhero and more like someone who needs a good night's sleep. Some characters make pragmatic choices you disagree with, others make noble sacrifices. The movie doesn't pretend every human gets to be heroic, but it does spend time letting a few people stand up in ways that matter. When the battle turns into a three-way conflict, Godzilla, Kong, and the Mechanical Titan, the choreography is surprisingly smart. Kong and Godzilla have distinct fighting styles, and the movie lets those differences shine. Kong uses the environment, improvises tools, and fights with an animal intelligence that's messy and creative. Godzilla is a force of nature, singular, devastating, and precise with his atomic breath. Together, they form a complementary chaos that begins to strain the machine's systems. The action here works because the stakes remain clear. If the machine wins, it could reshape the planet's hierarchy permanently. There are quieter moments, too. Between the roars and the crashes, the film returns to its emotional core, the human-Kong bond. Small scenes, a shared look before a battle, a hand pressed against fur, an understanding reached without words, remind you why we care about these massive creatures beyond their spectacle. These moments also help the film avoid feeling empty. They tether the giant set pieces to human concerns about survival, family, and legacy. The climax is, predictably, large and a little messy in the best way. Cityscapes light up, tectonic plates shift, and the machine throws its biggest punch yet. The sequence is long enough to be satisfying without overstaying its welcome, and the stakes remain personal even as the scale grows cosmic. It's the kind of payoff blockbuster fans want: destructive set pieces, clever teamwork moments, and an emotional hit when the film finally commits to the idea that cooperation matters, even when it's between two beings who would rather maim each other. Resolution leans hopeful rather than tidy. The immediate threat is dealt with in a way that's satisfying but not simplistic. Sacrifices are made, some losses are mourned, and the world is left a little scarred but better for having fought. Kong returns to his island changed, with a sense of purpose that goes beyond personal territory. Godzilla, ever the sentinel, retreats into the deep, having reasserted his dominance, and perhaps learned something about balance. The human characters end with a mixture of humility and resolve. They survived, but they also learned not to assume mastery over forces they barely understand. It's a decent moral without beating you over the head. The tone of the movie is worth mentioning, playful when it can be, serious when it must. It balances blockbuster spectacle with quiet humanity in ways that feel intentional rather than formulaic. There are moments of levity, a snarky one-liner here, a ridiculous but satisfying stunt there, that keep things from growing unbearably grim. The film also leans into awe. It wants you to feel small in front of its distas and big in front of its roars, and that emotional seesaw mostly works. Technically, the visual effects are, for the most part, excellent. The creatures feel tactile, heavy, and alive. The sound design is ferocious. The roars and environmental noises are crafted to make your chest vibrate a little. Editing occasionally rushes through connective tissue, but during action beats and emotional payoffs, it slows along enough to let them land. The score underscores the emotional beats without drowning them, and the cinematography often finds fresh angles for tired genre beats. If the film has weaknesses, they're mostly small. Some human subplot threads aren't given full closure, and a few supporting characters feel like they exist to deliver exposition rather than make interesting choices. The villainous rationale for building the machine is understandable within the story, but also familiar. Fear leads to overreach, overreach leads to catastrophe. It's not a flaw so much as a genre convention the movie leans into. In the end, the movie is entertaining, visually impressive, and emotionally grounded enough to matter. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel, it's trying to make that wheel feel important and dangerous, and occasionally tragically comedic. You'll leave humming a battle theme, maybe feeling a little sentimental about the monster who prefers trees over thrones, and perhaps thinking about what it means to build weapons to control forces bigger than ourselves. If you wanted a pure spectacle, you'll get it. If you wanted something with a heart, you'll get that too. So yeah, it's loud and a bit gaudy, but in the best possible blockbuster way. The movie respects its monsters, gives its humans enough dignity to matter, and reminds us, not subtly, that power without humility is usually a bad idea. And if you walk out humming and feeling like you might be able to take on anything, well, that's the point. Who knew giant monsters could be so good at life advice?
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next upload.